Hello everyone, my name is William Wright. This is my capstone presentation on more time in physical education can increase academic achievement. The purpose of my study was to examine the connection between physical activity and students' academic achievement. The two central research questions that I posed were, what is the connection between weekly minutes of physical education and students' standardized test scores? Also, I would examine the relationship between moderate to vigorous physical activity to a student's GPA. Throughout this research, um, I leaned on my values, faiths, and beliefs. Through the Strength Finder, I was able to connect to my top five, which were achiever, learner, responsibility, strategic, and belief. As an achiever, I am definitely driven to complete a task. Um, Definitely, when a challenge comes along, I want to do my best and complete the task. If someone asks me to do something, or definitely it's something that I'm really passionate about, I definitely want to put my best foot forward and to complete the task. My faith is a driving force behind a lot of things that I do. I'm very passionate about definitely physical activity and physical education because I believe that these are two things that can be a quality to students in their academic achievement and in their lives. And I strongly believe that, if you're doing things the right way, you'll always get positive results. Um, I looked at several literature reviews. The three ones that really connected to my study um, were very important. So the first literature review was from active living research. The purpose of their study was to examine the relationship between physical activity and academic performance among children and adolescents. They did a research on fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. It was a longitudinal study. They used observational data to collect um, to get the results. Children was exposed to different amounts of physical education uh, during that time. And the results showed that there was no adverse effect on academics with the additional time, but there were little to significant improvements to their grades. Again, this study it relates to my research because it gives me an opportunity to look at research that has been done that could try to connect physical activity and academic achievement. My second literature review was done on a group of researchers, were done by a group of researchers, and they looked at schools being able to develop physical activity initiatives to see if the amount of time students spent being physically active throughout the day would improve anything. The participants were selected from a previous research, and those participants were from a Title I school, which was a low socioeconomic area, for them to implement a program. The method they use is just a sample method, just collecting data and see where the test would go to if they added additional physical activity minutes. The way they went about doing the research was adding 20 to 25 minutes of physical activity to the student's day outside of PE. They brought in a physical education instructor to teach that class for 10 weeks. The results showed that participants were physically active and engaged during the class, but again, there were still no significant findings about increasing academic achievement. Again, this is another study that's important to my research because we're looking at the connection, but also it shows that you might have to look outside the box, that physical education might not be enough time for the students to increase their physical activity, where you might see an increase in their academic achievement. My last literature review was again done on a group of researchers, and they looked at the association between physical education and academic achievement. This research was done through kindergarten through fifth grade as the participants, and it was actually an early childhood longitudinal study done on the kindergartners for several years. And they looked at the time spent in physical education with the students and how did they improve in their math and reading scores. Classroom teachers were The ones who tracked the time they spent in physical education and the amount of time they went throughout the week. Um, During that time, they also gave the kids what you call a Sudan test, and that was just to give the kids to get information on the students' physical fitness. And the test scores they used from the state were the ones they collected on the math and reading scores. Again, the results, it showed a change, although it was a small change, but it did show a change for girls that had a higher amount of PE time than lesser amount of PE time in mathematics and reading, and there was no change in boys, regardless if it was more time or less time in PE. Again, this study is related to my topic because again, they showed how conducting a long research into a short-term research, the information still needs to be processed a little better, and we need to look at different areas besides physical activity to prove that physical activity can increase academic achievement. The methodology that I chose to use after doing, our research and using material that I read, the quantitative was the best approach for me. Also, within that quantitative approach, I chose to use a correlational study as well. Um, I used my school as a part of my research. With my experience with the students here, I chose third and fourth grade, which are students between the ages of 8 and 10. Their activity level tends to be a little higher with being out, so that's why I chose that grade level. Also, I chose to create a survey to use with this study as well, and the survey was called Physical Activity Connects Education, which is PACE for short. There were 29 questions that were broken into 4 sections, where you had demographic section. I had a section on the survey as asking them questions about their experience with physical education. Also, I had the next section was on their level of physical activity outside of school. And then the last section where I had a Likert scale where they were asked responses on their feelings of physical activity. And they were to select if they strongly disagree, they were neither, they agreed, or strongly agreed. I sent out a consent form for the students to participate in the research, and also the survey was done, and we added 15 minutes onto their physical education class, which gave me 45 minutes instead of 30 minutes um, for that class time. The way I would assess my data would be through frequencies, percentages, and I created an Excel spreadsheet to collect the data from the survey. My results came out positive. Before the study, the students only received 540 minutes to 500 minutes uh, for 18 classes, which were 30 minutes. And this was during the time they had their first SRI reading test, which was back in January of 2016. During the study, the students were able to receive, again, additional 15 minutes, which gave us 45 minutes of class. And 40 minutes of that class was spent being physically active from moderate to vigorous. A total of 600 to 540 minutes were collected, and we only had 15 classes, which during testing time was knocked down to 13 classes because of testing schedule and problems of that nature with technology. During the SI or SIR scores, they showed that 57% of third graders increased, 58% of the fourth graders increased their test scores, 29% of both grade levels decreased, 14% of third graders stayed the same, and then 13% of the fourth graders remained the same. Um, During this study, the students did increase in other areas too, but those areas were not examined for the study. The survey was given once the students brought back the consent form. However, the survey was voluntary, so The students did not have to participate in the survey if they chose not to. I didn't have a large turnout. Out of the participants that worked by the consent form, only had half that took the survey. The results from the survey were very, uh, I would say, rewarding to see, but also they show that we have a lot of work to do as far as physical education. To teach students the physical activity is very important inside and outside of school. 54% of the participants performed physical activity in the last 5 days, which was one of the questions on the form. 36% of the students uh, that went home during the school day watched more than 2 hours of TV. 31% did not play video games on a school day. And overall, the last portion of the survey, students felt that participation throughout the in physical activity throughout the school day contributed to their school day. So those results were very rewarding to see. Um, the survey went very well, although I was a little disappointed on the amount of students that volunteered. But the information that I gathered was very important to this study, and it definitely would help me in the future if I was to conduct this research again. But also at the same time, I know that during my field education class that I need to look at implementing some type of physical activity outside of that class, probably possibly an after school program or a program during the day where students can get more time of physical activity. My discussion, again, the research went pretty well. I think that the research still has a little ways to go to show that physical activity can make an impact on students' academic achievement. Uh, Although, again, there's no adverse effects, what I did see is a change in students' behavior, a change in students' physical activity level. For those who did not perform on a high level, their level went up. I also heard responses from classroom teachers that student behavior had went down in their classroom. Students were more attentive when they knew they was going to have more physical activity time too as well. So it did make some changes in those areas that can relate to physical activity and student achievement, but this research did not collect that data. Again, the results were similar to the previous studies because again, the increased amount of physical activity do prove to be beneficial to a child's emotional and physical well-being, but we still have to be able to relate that in the sense that they can be beneficial to students' academic scores as well. Again, the higher percentage of participants scored higher on SRI was the results of my test, but again, we have to be able to show that that relates to the physical activity and not just them being inside the classroom a long period of time because their reading class was 90 minutes, 5 days a week, where my classes came in probably once or twice a week, 2 or 4 combined of 90 minutes. So again, you have to be able to show that. The only difference I think that in my test was that I guess the participants in the survey was a low percentage, and I think that the data collected, those samples wouldn't really come up to, I guess, a whole validity that they would be accurate enough to say that physical activity really increased those students' SRI scores. Um, and I can say that my research was did have connection to current research because again we wanted to show that there is a need for more physical activity initiatives, even though that there wasn't a direct relationship to the connection of physical activity and improvement of academic achievement, but there is a need for more physical activity during the school day. My recommendations would be that uh, although these researches have limited limitations to them, we still should be able to use physical activity throughout the school day to show achievement for the students in the classrooms and outside the classrooms. Um, I was unable to get the math scores, which would have been a big part beneficial to my research as well. But at the same time, again, I think the students increasing their physical activity really showed that it can help them and be beneficial to them throughout the course of the school day. If I chose to do this research again, I would definitely conduct a longer research and be able to choose more participants. Again, thank you guys for listening to my research. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, colleagues, and thanks to my family and friends. I definitely appreciate you guys helping me through this difficult task.